Well, thank you. It is wonderful to see such an amazing turnout for the ribbon cutting and dedication of Nashville's first Family Justice Center, which is devoted to serving the families in Nashville affected by domestic violence. It has been rightfully named the Gene Crow Advocacy Center. There are a number of elected officials here today and a couple of people I would like to recognize, and hopefully I can get them all. First, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Gibbons, who's with us, Director Bill Scallon from the state. I'd also like to recognize Chief Anderson, our great police chief, Judge Phil Smith, Judge Philip Robinson, Clerk Ricky Rooker, District Attorney Glenn Funk, General Sessions Judge Melissa Blackburn and Linda Jones, and former District Attorney Tori Johnson. And Tori looks happier than the rest of us for some reason. I don't know. Many of you have contributed in some way to the success of this project. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your support of this important endeavor. The creation of the Gene Crow Advocacy Center is really government acting at its very best. It's an example of how one citizen can voice a concern that not only has weight, but has legs. That one person is Gene Crow, who not only voiced her concern, but came here with an idea. Jean is here today with her family, Dan, her husband, Andy and Joanna, their son and daughter, grandsons Michael and Perry, and neighbors Jim and Margaret. Approximately 2 years ago, Gene Crow and Judge Phil Smith came to meet with me. At that meeting, Jean told me that she was deeply concerned about domestic violence victim safety and offender accountability. Jean also told me in no uncertain terms that she wanted me to do something about it. She asked for my office to lead a domestic violence safety and accountability assessment to review the policies and practices of every metro agency involved in our city's response to domestic violence crimes. Well, everybody knows that when she tells you it's your job to do something, you should do it. And that's what we did. It took a year and a half to complete. Over 100 community members were involved in the process, and the final report included 55 recommendations, specific action steps to improve victim safety and offender accountability around domestic violence. Most of us have seen reports and plans about how we can do our work better, and many of those reports and plans end up gathering dust on a bookshelf. But no dust gathered on the domestic violence safety assessment. Instead, pages were dog-eared, words were underlined, and Metro got to work. And now, a year to the date, after the release of that report, we are having a ribbon cutting of the Gene Crow Advocacy Center. Now, instead of waiting in a crowded, often chaotic, standing room-only courtroom, domestic violence victims wait for court at the Gene Crow Advocacy Center, where they are safe, comfortable, and well attended to. Now, instead of speaking with the district attorney in court, sometimes under the watchful gaze of the offender, victims speak to DAs privately in the center. Now, instead of going to night court, where they all too often encounter the offenders they are trying to escape, victims can obtain an order of protection from the comfort of the center between the hours of 8 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. Now, instead of being asked about the case at hand, victims are asked about all of their needs when they meet with one of the 6 newly hired advocates. These advocates help victims with safety, planning, risk assessment, referral services, and orders of protection. And now, most importantly, we are doing a better job of living up to the mandates of the Victims' Bill of Rights by providing a waiting area separate and secure from the defendant or defense witnesses during all stages of the judicial process, and treating victims with dignity and compassion. That is a lot to accomplish in a year's time. And I am especially proud of 2 things. First, I am proud of the level of collaboration that existed to make this center a reality. We had partner nonprofits, Morning Star Sanctuary, Legal Aid Society, the YWCA, You Have the Power. Members of my Domestic Violence Executive Committee, Police Chief Steve Anderson, Sheriff Darren Hall, Talia Lamox Neal from the Metro Finance, Law Director Saul Solomon, Judge Smith, District Attorney Glenn Funk, Diane Lance from my office, and Whitney McFalls, who manages the center. All of the Metro departments whose individuals represent, as well as doing great work on this project, include General Services, IT, Metro 3, and JIS. And of course, the Metro Council that approved the funding for this center. And the second, and probably the most important thing that I'm proud of, is how all of this work and change came about. The city's decision to do better, to better protect victims and hold offenders accountable, did not arise from outside pressure. This center is not a reaction to the national spotlight on the issue on domestic violence. Rather, the center arose out of the concerns of our own domestic violence community and from the voice of Jean Crow. And that is why I am so proud to dedicate this center to Jean Crow, not only to honor the work that she has done in the area of domestic violence, not only to honor her role in the process that led to the creation of this center, but also, and even more importantly, to remind each of us that complacency does not save lives and that complacency does not bring about needed change. Jean Crow's name on the plaque outside this center will serve as a strong and lasting reminder that a single voice matters in Nashville, Tennessee. So at this time, I hereby dedicate and name this center the Jean Crow Advocacy Center. We are honored to have with us today Commissioner Bill Gibbons from the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security, and I want to thank him for joining us today. In life, you know that you are heading in the right direction when all the pieces around you seem to fall into place, and that is exactly what happened with this project. We were progressing through our safety assessment, and it became clear that one of our top goals as a city should be to have a family justice center, a place where coordinated community response to domestic violence happens. It was at that time that we received a call from the commissioner. This was a good call to get from the state, letting us know that the state wanted to increase the number of family justice centers in Tennessee and that they had their eye on Nashville as a potential location. It became immediately clear that the state's goal was in perfect alignment with our goals, and so we applied for the grant. We are grateful for the funding that we received from the state to help make this city's Family Justice Center a reality. Please welcome Commissioner Bill Gibbons.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Dean. He's correct. I made a call to him, I guess, about a year and a half ago. And sometimes when people get a call from the Commissioner of Safety and Homeland Security, they kind of think, well, there's a problem. This was not a problem, it was an opportunity. And Bill Scollin with the state's Office of Criminal Justice Programs and I had a chance to visit with Mayor Dean and Diane Lance about the problem of domestic violence. And it was a very interesting meeting, a very unusual meeting, because basically what Bill and I said was, if as part of your plan, you are interested in creating a center such as this, we've got some state funding for you. So it was a very unusual meeting, and we're glad to be a partner in this and be able to provide some funding. As some of you know, I served as district attorney in Shelby County for 14 years. And one thing I learned in that position was the importance of tackling the problem of domestic violence. And one thing I was very involved in Shelby County is setting up a center just like this in order to help victims of domestic violence in this community. So I understood firsthand, and General Funk, you'll see it too, the importance of trying to provide these kinds of support services to victims of domestic violence. Now, this center builds on some progress that we're making across the state. Through August, reported domestic violence offenses are down almost 7% compared to last year. So that's very, very encouraging. I'm not going to say that's a trend at this point, but at least it's encouraging to see that the number of reported offenses is going down. Having said that, domestic violence continues to be the driving force behind our violent crime problems in our state. Domestic violence offenses account for over half of the reported crimes against persons in our state. We have the unfortunate distinction of being ranked 10th in the nation in the number of women being killed at the hands of men. So we have a long way to go. One thing that Governor Haslam has done is establish a public safety action plan to try to address some of the challenges we face in our state. And a very important focal point of that action plan is tackling domestic violence. And a very important part of that is providing some state funding to communities across the state to establish centers just like this one. So we're very glad to be able to be of help. This center will help victims do a number of things. First of all, it will help victims in many cases remove themselves from abusive situations by giving them the support that they need. It will also help them work through what can be a very, very complicated criminal justice system and make sure they're not falling through the cracks. And then number three, it will really give them the support they need to stay the course in the prosecution of cases. And that can be very, very difficult for victims in many situations. So this center is a vital part of providing victims of domestic violence that kind of support network. Again, we are very, very glad to be a partner in this. The funding from the state is coming through the Office of Criminal Justice Programs, which Bill Scollin, who is here, heads up. And we look forward to partnering with you. I want to close by simply thanking all of you for what you do day in and day out to help address this challenge in this community. Thank you.
Thank you again, Commissioner, for joining us, and please thank Governor Haslam for his great leadership on this very important issue. And now it's time to cut the ribbon and tour the new Advocacy Center. As many of you know, this center had a soft opening on September 2nd, and from what I understand, there was not much soft about that opening. To date, the center has already assisted 396 victims and witnesses. Many of those victims and witnesses fill out an exit survey before they leave and give us feedback about what's going on here. Many victims describe that they felt nervous, helpless, and confused or afraid before coming to the center, but after leaving, they felt confident, safe, and supported. We also have received really positive comments on these surveys. One comment that a couple of members of my staff particularly like was, whoever came up with this idea is a smart person. Another comment has been, the best thing that this courthouse could do for victims was to give them some type of sanctuary, and you guys accomplished this in many ways. We are proud of those comments, and we will work hard to make the Gene Crow Advocacy Center fit the needs of those who it was designed to serve. In planning this ribbon cutting, we felt that it was important to not just showcase the new space, but all the new services that are being provided at the center. So as you walk through, please take time to read all the posters we have hanging on the walls. These posters describe the functions of each room and the many specific design features that were chosen to best serve victims and witnesses of domestic violence crimes and their unique needs. And now I'm going to ask Gene, Commissioner Gibbons, my Domestic Violence Executive Committee, any council members present, and our partner nonprofit agency leaders to join me for the ribbon cutting. Thank you.